Have you ever really thought about the ground you're standing on? I mean, it's so much more than just dirt, right? It's like this epic story written in stone. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden links between mountains, tiny pebbles, and even the buildings we see every day. Let's dig in.
Okay, so take a look at this. On one hand, you've got this huge rocky hill, then a busy quarry where people are digging stuff up, and finally, just a few smooth pebbles. They seem completely unrelated, don't they? One's nature, one's industry, and the other is just, well, a bunch of stones. Or is it?
You guessed it, there is a hidden connection. A really deep geological thread that ties all of these things together. Stick with me because the answer tells us something super fundamental about the planet we live on.
The connection, of course, is that they're all made of rock. But, that's just scratching the surface. The really cool part isn't what they are, but how they're all related. And to get that, we need to ask a really basic question first. What even is a rock?
When you break it all down, a rock is basically a mix of different minerals. Think of it like baking. You've got your ingredients, minerals like silica and aluminum, and then you have natural processes in the Earth's crust, which is called the lithosphere, that kind of cook it all together into the solid ground we walk on.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Even though there are thousands of different kinds of rocks out there, geologists have figured out this brilliant way to organize them. They group every single one into just 3 main families, and it's all based on one thing: how they were made.
And here they are: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Each one tells a totally different origin story. For today, we're going to really zoom in on the 2 you'll probably see the most: igneous and sedimentary. If you can get these 2, you've unlocked a huge piece of the puzzle.
Speaking of breaking things down step by step, if you're a student, maybe you're in class 6 or around that age, and you like learning this way, you should really check out A1 Institute. They're awesome at making big, complex topics feel super simple and clear. Kind of like what we're doing right now. It's a great resource. Anyway, let's get back to the rocks.
All right, let's jump into our first family. We're starting with the ones that are literally forged in fire. Igneous rocks. That name, igneous, actually comes from the Latin word for fire, which is ignis. Pretty cool, huh?
So, where do these fiery rocks come from? Well, it all starts way deep inside the Earth with magma, which is just super hot melted rock. When a volcano erupts and that stuff finally reaches the surface, we call it lava. The second that magma or lava cools down and gets hard, bam, you've just made an igneous rock.
Since they form from this original hot goo, they're often called primary rocks. They're usually really hard, pretty heavy, and tend to look the same all the way through. That's what homogeneous means. And it makes sense, right? Since they come from such insane heat, you're never ever going to find fossils in them. Any plant or animal would have been totally vaporized.
And this isn't just something in a textbook. I mean, huge parts of our world are made this way. Take the Maharashtra Plateau in India. That whole massive area was basically built from ancient lava flows. The dark, hard rock you see all over there, that's basalt, a classic igneous rock.
Now, for a really wild example of an igneous rock, this is pumice. It almost looks like a sponge, right? Well, that's because it forms from volcanic froth. It's basically lava that was full of gas bubbles when it cooled down super fast.
And get this, all those little trapped air bubbles make pumice incredibly light, so light that it's one of the only rocks in the world that can actually float on water. I'm not kidding, a rock that floats. How cool is that?
Okay, so we've covered the rocks forged in fire. Now let's move on to our second family, and their origin story is completely different. Let's talk about sedimentary rocks. These guys are built up piece by piece, layer by layer.
So how does this happen? Well, it starts with other rocks getting broken down by things like wind and rain into tiny little bits called sediments. Then rivers or wind carry those pieces away and drop them in layers, maybe at the bottom of a lake. And over millions of years, more layers pile up on top. It's like a giant stack of pancakes. The ones at the bottom get totally squished by the weight, and that pressure is what presses the sediment together into solid rock. Because of how they're made, they're just different from igneous rocks. You can often see the layers. They're usually a bit more brittle and not as heavy. A lot of them are porous, which means they can soak up water like a sponge, and this is the big one, because they form so gently. This is where you can find fossils of ancient plants and animals perfectly preserved inside.
Let's look at a real-world example of this. So a lot of the old forts in Maharashtra have these amazing man-made lakes. And what's really clever is that they were often made from the very same holes that were dug to get the stone to build the fort in the first place.
Which brings up a really good question. What kind of rock do you think they used to build these giant forts?
When you think about the landscape and the need for big, solid blocks of stone, it's a pretty cool puzzle that connects geology right to human history.
Okay, let's bring this all back to the beginning. Why does any of this stuff matter? Well, because when you understand these rocks, you're starting to understand the story of our entire world, from the highest mountains to the ground right under our feet.
So remember that hill, that quarry, and those pebbles from the start? The hidden connection isn't just that they're all rocks. It's that they are all part of this incredible, never-ending cycle. The hill gets worn down into pebbles. Those pebbles get pressed together into sedimentary rock, and maybe deep in the earth, that rock melts and becomes igneous rock all over again. They're not separate things, they're just different stages of the same journey.
So, I'll leave you with a challenge. The next time you walk outside, just look around. Is that wall made of layered sedimentary stone? Is the gravel on the path a hard, uniform igneous rock? The story of our planet is literally written everywhere. Now you know how to start reading it.